You touched on being kind of early on in the season, not really knowing, much coming in with preseason. We don't get to see a lot. We're only a few matches now into the season this year. What's kind of stood out for you with this season in FC Cincinnati so far?
I think that the biggest thing that stood out, I think the depth of this team is impressive. I think, of course, I think it's obvious that we want to have, I think, additional goal scorers. And I think some will happen through just natural competition. I think the summertime probably presents another opportunity. And I can't speak, as far as the transfers and what's going to happen. I have no idea. But knowing this franchise and knowing this club, success is an expectation. And I think to be successful, you've obviously got to score goals. The competition from the squad itself, I think you look at midfield, and Sam, you talked about just midfield position and those players that are intelligent or they see the game differently. We have an abundance of talent within those central areas that personally I think is you can utilize that in different ways. You can have obviously rotation and competition. You can potentially tweak systems to try to have more central players in a system. Or you can utilize a player out of position too. And, we saw that last year, like Buka had played in wide positions, wing back positions, even higher up the field attacking positions too. So I think that's the biggest thing is the strength of the squad, and especially just, this is probably biased, the competition that we have in central positions, I think is so strong.
No, yeah, I was telling Ryan, I think FC Cincinnati might have one of the most underrated midfields in all of MLS. Just like you said, based off the depth, you get a guy last, transfer window with Samuel Giddey at the end there, and he starts in the playoffs for you over Obi, right? Who is one of the best defensive midfielders in the MLS. Yeah, I mean, as far as offseason moves, what are your kind of thoughts on maybe a move that mattered the most that maybe went a little quiet, or maybe just mattered most in general? It could be a departure, arrival. You can even take it back, like I said, to that July window if you'd want.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the squad here as you're asking. I think this is not like a shock. I think this is personally, I was just surprised with Ramirez coming in. Not that I was surprised that he came in. I was surprised when he came in, what he's brought to this team. I think I can tell that Pat's big on him just based on his comments and what he's kind of shared. But just the first game especially, I was impressed. The first home game against Atlanta, I was impressed. I think he's an intelligent player. He's different, very, very different. Like he will stop the ball close. He'll draw pressure and accelerates. He's not a winger that just gets it and goes 100 miles an hour. So he understands.
Yeah, compared to our previous wingers, how would you compare him to the previous wingers?
He's different, very different. Yeah. I think, like I said, I think if you look at like a guy like Orshano that was fast, right, and gets up to speed pretty quickly and beats a guy off the dribble, Brian's not that. Brian at times kind of receives it. He'll kind of assess, and he understands pressure and space really well, right? So he'll draw a player in, understand that there's space behind, then he'll beat him, or he'll wait, and pass off. He sees the game. So from a vision standpoint, he's a little bit different than a wide player, if that makes sense. I think there's more to come as far as like his service and his delivery.
Right.
I've seen it a couple of times where he's looked and he switched the point of attack very quickly, or just that the through passes that he has. So he's more of a, I don't know, because this sounds demeaning to the other players. Like he has high intelligence, I think, for a wide player. And I think balance with like a guy like Ender Echenike on the other side, it's a good balance.
Well, to be fair, I don't know if we've had anybody with his pedigree in that position before, right? I mean, you talk about intelligence, right? He's got the pedigree and the trophies to back it up, whereas like the previous players, a little younger in their career with Barreal or Ashano, still kind of learning the position, if you will, as well.
Yeah, great point. I think those players, both those players that you just mentioned, I think were projects at some stage, right? And I think we got the best out of those players, right? I think Pat pushed those players to different levels, and I think they repaid his faith he certainly contributed to the attack, and obviously we're grateful for what they provided. But to your point, I think Brian's just a little bit different. He's at a different stage of his career, and he's just a different profile of player.
Yeah, Sam and I talked a lot, in our preseason warmups and everything, just in saying how important the wing, would be. Just we've seen it in the Shield winning year, how important it was. And then for this team, we saw when it maybe lacked at times last year. So this year, I think there's a good opportunity. Kind of transitioning, I guess, from that, in asking you what if this team's going to win a trophy, do you think it's wingback play that will kind of define that? Or what do you think helps to win the trophy the most, I guess?
Well, I talked about midfield. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the competition at the back, right? And I think a guy like Miles Robinson, especially, I think he's going to be fantastic this season. So impressed with him. And I said this in Minnesota, like each season, he just looks better and better, right? So I think we've got a great player with him. We've got competition across the back line. But to answer your question, there's two things, right? I think obviously a solid back line and goalkeeping, which I think we have. And I touched on this point earlier. I think scoring goals, right? You've got to score goals. So again, I think that can come through relationship that will develop. Obviously, Kevin Denke, I think we can all agree that he's going to be the main guy.
Yeah.
And who fits with him, right? And that's the competition. There's good players that can come in and kind of contribute with him. And then the potential, again, not that I know this or I'm looking into a crystal ball, but if you could add another piece in the summer, I think we're in a position then to win and to challenge because, like I said, the depth of the squad is strong.
Yeah, I think Ryan and I were talking about that as well, like the back line and the attack coming into the season. We were kind of depth wise in both positions. It was like, oh, okay, we're not quite. Maybe doesn't look quite filled, especially up top, missing maybe like one more striker, or one more, pure goal scorer. But yeah, it could definitely turn into something. Is there a certain competition that in your eyes, FC Cincinnati may have like the best chances to win a trophy? I know because coming into the season, right? I know it wasn't just us because we had to talk about it because other people were, but the whole narrative of like Pat Noonan has yet to win something other than the Supporter Shield, right? A playoff trophy, a tournament trophy, if you will. Is there any certain one that you're like, okay, like they could win this one?
Well, personally, I think winning the Supporter Shield, I think is more important, right? But again,
we're in that camp. We're in that camp, by the way. We are also in that camp.
Yeah. So I certainly don't judge Pat. I think he's fantastic. I think what he's done, not just Pat, I think Chris and his staff too. I think what they've done in a short time, like if you think about this too, like we were struggling. Right?
Wooden spoon after wooden spoon. Yeah.
Yeah, and what those guys done, and of course it takes that support from the ownership group too to make that work. But I think as far as to answer your question, look, the Supporter Shield again is fantastic. I'm impressed with that. Is that enough for the fans? You guys have got to answer that, right? Of course, MLS Cup, I think, for the collective group, fans, staff, team, that's the focus. Other competitions, it'd be fantastic to have different trophies in your cabinet, but I think MLS Cup is the goal.
Yeah, it seems like it. And, just I love Pat's mindset of just try to win the game in front of you and then see kind of what happens, so put your head down, work it, and then you'll get good results, hopefully.